The VASD program is an interdisciplinary initiative that fosters vision, creativity, and innovation by bringing leading artists, scholars, and designers to campus. Providing direct access to contemporary art, design, and culture through an inspiring comparative framework, the program creates a cross-disciplinary environment made possible through appreciation and critical inquiry. As the coordinator for the VASD program, it is my pleasure to introduce tonight's distinguished guest, Will Vinton. Will Vinton is the renowned inventor of claymation, having coined and trademarked the term, and is internationally recognized as a pioneer in 3D animation. The creator of some of the field's most successful animated characters, including the beloved California Raisins, the M&Ms, the Domino's Pizza Noid, my personal favorite, and dinosaur critics Herb and Rex. Mr. Vinton has produced animated entertainment for nearly every market, from short films to theme parks. As a producer and director, Vinton has received 5 Academy Award nominations for Best Animated Short Film, as well as a nomination for Best Visual Effects. He received an Oscar in 1975 for his animated short Closed Mondays, and he's won 8 Primetime Emmy Awards for Best Animated Program of the Year, including Meet the Raisins, Will Vinton's Claymation Christmas Celebration, and the PJ's television series. He has received Clios for his animated advertising productions, Golden Lions from the Cannes Film Festival for his short films, and many more major awards from film festivals around the world. In addition to his film accolades and honors, Vinton received an honorary doctorate in fine arts from Linfield College and was presented with the Distinguished Alumni Award from the University of California at Berkeley, where he received his BA in architecture. Mr. Vinton continues to explore, promote, and instruct the art and craft of stop-motion animation and claymation in new films, gallery and museum exhibitions, and through classes and workshops. Thank you all very much for coming tonight, and please join me in welcoming Will Vinton.
Thanks, Anna. Well, thank you, Anna. That was a nice introduction, if heavy, with all those awards. It's really been a pleasure to be here at the school. Had a good time already. Great weekend, great weather and stuff. So it's really lovely. Really have enjoyed getting acquainted with some of the students, both in a workshop that I did today, and also just taking a look at awful of the student work that has been up over especially yesterday. I think that was part of the student gallery showings and stuff around campus. Very impressive, and I've seen a lot of campuses and a lot of art schools and so on, and it's just been a delight, been really fun. So thank you Anna for bringing me out, and for in the animation department, Sean and Sam, and just to make this just a terrific trip for me. Tonight I'm going to take you through what is kind of I guess a personal evolution, certainly of sort of the creative evolution, I guess, of my own, which also parallels 3D animation in general, partially because it was a part of it. I mean, it's significant, and when I'm showing you some of this stuff, I think has some somewhat historical significance in that it is both running parallel to computer CG 3D animation, and also a contributor in some sort of really significant ways to what has happened in terms of 3D animation and the growth of it over the years. When I first started, and was many of the students here ages, animation was about 99.9% 2D cell animation, and there were huge industries, of course, as you all know, that were focused on 2D. Other techniques, and there were many, and I don't mean to discount them, there were significant ones in film festivals and things being shown that were interesting and wild, but absolutely not mainstream, what we would call mainstream sort of entertainment values. with anything but 2D animation. There's another thing that was happening at that time, and that is that while they called it animation being primarily for the family market, it was, for the most part, it was, I discovered in some ways the hard way, that it was a market for, children, basically, 8 and under. Self-respecting adults need not get involved here, kind of thing. And that's notwithstanding the wonderful and very adult work that had been done in the decades prior to this time, in the 60s, 70s, when I was doing it. Things that we still revere as wonderful classic entertainment from the likes of Chuck Jones and Tex Avery, classics that were absolutely had adult appeal in them, in the animation. But at the time, anyway, I'm starting out. It's really a kind of a kid's medium. So my early background was I came to University of California at Berkeley, and I studied, a range of things from, physics, and I studied architecture, graduated in architecture, did some play directing, experimental animation, did a lot of experimental filmmaking, live action filmmaking at the time, and it was a really pretty wonderful time. As I told the group today, the workshop group, I first crossed paths, I think, with clay when I started designing in architecture. I was very inspired by Antoni Gaudí. Gaudi's work was, of course, very well known in Barcelona and the Mediterranean areas in Spain. Wonderfully organic structures that were more akin to beehives and conch shells and things than they were to, boxes, which architecture was primarily focused on, is the boxes. And I realized I had to, if I really wanted to be inspired and I wanted to design like Gaudí, I had to throw away the T-square and the straight edge and grab some plasticine clay. And I just started basically molding and designing by way of sculpting, as opposed to designing by way of, T-square, square, and straight edge, as I say. And it was really a case of the filmmaking that I was already into, making short films at the time, and the interest in clay that sort of crossed paths for early experiments that I found astounding, that I found amazing. And so it was quite innocent in some respects. I was doing pixelation experiments and things with the stop-motion cameras at the time anyway. But I kind of innocently, I wasn't like inspired to do, stop motion all of a sudden. I was just sort of had these tools and started playing with this with pals, art and architecture student pals. And the results were amazing sometimes. Things that, just simple inanimate lumps of clay somehow coming to life. And I think that's, in some small way, that inspiration, having seen that at an early stage in college still, was one of the things that has sort of continued to drive me forward into what I call, and what I'm going to show you today, of sort of 4 phases of my career, 4 phases of growth of my work and the companies that I built and so on. And the first phase really was all about an extension of this experimentation. In fact, after a couple of years of learning, getting all kinds of filmmaking skills, I edited, shot cameras, live action stuff, did industrial documentaries, all kinds of things, some experimental animation still. But I was working and exploring this Claymation, this clay animation thing, because the word hadn't yet been coined, but this clay animation thing in the basement of my house, and had a little, some stage things set up in this crude, somewhat dirty basement, and worked for a couple of years, actually, several years, experimenting there, trying different things. And it led to a film that is very, very well known, or became very, very well known, a film that was sort of designed to show what some of these experiments were capable of doing. He was a wino, a kind of a drunkard character, had to be, because that was one of the things I discovered, is that I couldn't keep them very steady necessarily on their feet. So it was sort of designed perfectly for what the situation. And he was the character wanders into an art museum where each of the paintings, sculptures, and so on come to life, and we allowed us a new way to sort of show off some of these clay animation techniques that we'd been playing with. And I say we, working with other art and architecture students, and in one student in particular, who I lived with down in the Berkeley area, Bob Gardner, came up and lived with me for a year and worked intensively on a film that we ultimately called Closed Mondays. How many have seen Closed Mondays? Yeah, a few of you had. And it turned out to be a rather remarkable film in that it got theatrical distribution, which was amazing for just about any film. I showed it to a theater distributor. They lumped it together with a limited release theatrical movie, and so it played theaters all over. And it ended up winning an awful lot of awards, including the Academy Award for this budding young filmmaker who was just sort of starting out. So it was a very, very auspicious launch, if you will, for a 26-year-old or something. But the real significance of that was that it allowed me the opportunity to begin this first phase that I call my sort of this sort of experimentation phase. And in this one, I managed to get enough jobs to do short films, either for educational or non-theatrical distribution through some distributors, or actually did some things just completely on my own and managed to sell them to non-theatrical distributors, and allowed very, very modest income, but enough to keep experimenting, keep trying things. And the purpose and the goal of every single film that we took on as a growing team was the purpose, the vision was to try to take this clay animation thing somewhere new, somewhere we'd never done it before. We picked projects even based on, well, does this idea, does this story and concept and so forth move us in some direction? Use the clay animation in some other way. And so as a result, it was quite a wonderful series of short films, that each one of them after the other, that was enormously innovative and quickly allowed us to grow, quickly allowed it to grow from what was just a freelance operation, Vinton Productions, to a small company with more and more people. I'd just keep hiring people as we needed more people and training people as we go. There were no schools teaching, clay animation, so we had an apprentice program as a part of it and so on. But it was I have to say, that it was really an enormously exciting, enormously. I'm getting over a little cold here, so bear with me tonight. I'm sorry about that. Just enormously fun sequence period for this small, dedicated team that we were. And I say team, during this phase, we ranged in size from maybe 6 or 7 people to about 15 or maybe 18 in that range to do different projects, depending on the scale, the scope of the project. I'm going to show you some of those first films in this experimentation phase. Unfortunately, everything I'm showing you tonight is clips. I wish I could show you the whole thing, but as it is, I'm only going to show you a tiny fraction of the films as it is, and only a tiny fraction of each of those films. So we'd be here for days if we actually did it all the way through. So there's a section of Closed Mondays to bring back the memories of those of you who had seen it before. I think the school may, I'm not sure of this, but I think the school may have copies of some of these, and if not, we'll get the school some, so you can maybe check it out at the library or something. But Closed Mondays is in this clip in there. There's a section that we did a strictly, rather didactic educational film on dinosaurs, although my approach to anything educational was to sugarcoat the heck out of it and make it just a whole lot of fun. And that's what we did on the dinosaur thing. We called it Dinosaur, and it was had this packed full of facts and figures and stuff. But it was a hoot. It was awful lot of fun, and done from a point of view of a little kid giving a report. The kid that's the nerd in the class, kind of thing. And you never see the kids; it's all voices over. And what you see is what's being put on the blackboard, or the dark, and what they're imagining is sort of coming to life in the background. We did one called the Great Cognito, which really highlighted transformational images, metamorphosis, which spawned a decade's worth of metamorphic commercials for the company. Also it was an Academy Award nominee. A film we did about that same time, did a documentary. People would ask about this process, and nobody was really doing it. This is really a little bit before Aardman, a little bit before some of the other pioneers. Not before Gumby, of course. In fact, I was not Gumby goes back quite a ways. I was oblivious a bit to Gumby until, frankly, much later. I think Eddie Murphy actually introduced me to Gumby in a significant way on Saturday Night Live, which is odd and much later, and a different perspective altogether. But we did this documentary, and one of the things I wanted to do is simplify the title from Claymation and such or something. So that's when we decided let's call it Claymation, and the name really stuck, Claymation, and we started to use it as a description of what we were doing, in part to kind of differentiate what we were doing from what other people were doing, and so we trademarked the name. It was a registered trademark. But over in time, it's become a real generic word. It's kind of fun to have trademarked or to have coined anything that ends up in Webster's, let alone Wikipedia and so on. Everything's in Wikipedia, but Webster's, that's another story. I think there's a clip in here in this first section. We did a series of half-hour films. There were ostensibly classic tales by very, very well-known authors. We did The Little Prince, and I think there's a little clip of that. I also did Rip Van Winkle and Martin the Cobbler, a Tolstoy story. These were half-hour kind of TV format kind of films. There's also a clip in here of another very different technique and a film called Creation, or the Creation. And it was done with using clay painting. And Joan Gratz was one of the artists at the time working with me, and she had a wonderful 2D sort of painterly style. Was a great painter, really a nice oil painter. And so we started playing with creating basically 2D clay on glass and manipulating it and moving it around like finger painting, a frame at a time. And that led to clay, to the Creation, and a whole slew of subsequent uses of clay painting as well, that I'll talk a little bit more about later. I think one of the significance of each of these films, they really kind of won an unprecedented number of awards. And one of the things you have to remember about film festivals and awards is that they were always given by, the adults were always judges. I mean, the judges were always adults, and they were always I think the significance was more than anything that these films were really starting to sort of appeal to adults. And a comment about that, I really never really knew what it meant to do what most of the producers were doing at that time, which was to make films for children. Because there was a kind of a talk down or a dumb down to be able to communicate with them that I didn't know how to do, frankly. What I did know how to do, and I really understood, I felt I did, was I got a good sense of what I thought was funny, and my cohorts, my teams thought was funny, and we're adults, and we liked our share of slapstick and good, stuff that kids seem to like as well. But we also liked a little more sophisticated caricature, dialogue, kind of situational, things. Sometimes, that get you clear into double entendres and all sorts of stuff like that make it really fun for adults. And so these films really did win an amazing array of awards. I think Closed Mondays was the first ever film to be nominated, let alone win an Oscar, a stop motion film to win a nomination. It was in the next, I think, seven years. I think we had got 5 nominations for films in that period, with all claymation films. So let's see. I think what I'd like to do at this point is go ahead and roll the first series of clips here, and I think I have control over it right here. So let me just go for it here. I guess I'm there. Okay.
I wonder what makes it work.
Thank you for turning me on. I am a replica of the Model 505 Type C electro brain equipped with quasi-hysterical input, advancing reasoning quotient program, does not know short compute, correct error key, mutations, metamorphological mutations, typiversal, comparative mutations, metamorphology, potential program quotient as the world turns.
I ask you what hand have I?
Well, let's go now to a clever little documentary on how they did it in the early days. One of my favorites.
I hated it. They all look like hippies.
Now, I give this one the thumbs up.
Hey, I wouldn't give these guys a
Well,
job.
perhaps a bit dated.
But nice visuals.
A stylistic
Which
mishmash.
is why I liked it.
And I hated it.
The dinosaurs laid their eggs out of the water. When they were born, they were prepared to exploit the land.
Exploit? Did you say exploit?
There were tall ones.
That's you, Margaret.
Short ones.
Richard, just shut up.
Fat ones. And flat ones.
You again, Margaret.
Children, come now.
Who knows what the dinosaurs ate?
Anything they wanted.
Yeah, man, in the movies, they eat people.
That's so neat.
Man, they just hang out their mouths. Yeah, man, they be kicking their legs and everything. It's really cool. Dinosaurs did not eat people.
Well, that's really disappointing.
Cinematic sellout.
Wrong. Even you can see it.
I can hardly see it all.
This generation of Americans has a rendezvous with...
Oh, Frankie.
He had a mistress, And then there were the movies. Training. The two brothers, they're fighting, they're always fighting.
I'll break your face. Take this, boy. You run. I'll take that. Take that.
Well, they're getting in shape for the war. They feel good about that. Oh, then they go to the bar and drink on furlough, right? And they fight the Air Force, they fight the Navy and everything. Of course, there's no Coast Guard. Oh, and then, of course, back home, there was the Andrews sisters singing Bugle Boy of Company C.
Next up is a wonderful, wonderful film.
Not really, Rex. No. I mean, it starts well enough, but the consistently dark substrata is convoluted through a sea of allegorical detail.
The second planet was inhabited by a conceited man.
Do you really admire me?
admire you?
Yes. Am I not the handsomest, best dressed, richest, and most intelligent man on this planet?
You are the only man on your planet.
Do me this kindness. Admire me just the same.
The grown-ups are certainly very odd.
The third planet belonged to a businessman.
3 and 2 make
Good morning.
5 and 7 make 12. 12 and 3 make 15. Good morning. 15 and 7 make 22. 22 and 6 make 28. 28 and 5 make 33. That makes 501,622,733.
500 million what?
Stars.
What do you do with 500 million stars?
Nothing. I own them.
How is it possible for one to own the stars?
I was the first person to think of it.
Is that all that is necessary?
Certainly. When you discover an island that belongs to nobody, it's yours. When you get an idea before anybody else, you take out a patent on it. It's yours. So I own the stars because nobody else before me ever thought of owning them.
I myself own a flower which I water every day.
Oh, boy.
I own 3 volcanoes which I clean out every week.
Yeah, I bet.
It is of some use to my volcanoes and to my flower that I own them, but you are of no use to the stars.
And he went on his way.
Fishes and fowls and beasts and birds swam the rivers and the seas, roamed the forests and the woods, and split the air with their wings.
Let's stop there for a minute. Thanks. I wish I could show you much more. It's a very abbreviated kind of tour. So the next phase I think of as kind of in many ways, the zenith of claymation, the peak, and it's also was marked a shift when the films went from being shorts in specialty niches and film festivals, that sort of thing, into the popular media, moving into feature films. We did a pretty amazing feature film called The Adventures of Mark Twain. Maybe a little more about that later. We did sequences for television. We actually did a moonlighting sequence that I'll show you a clip of here, where the creator had the dilemma of Sybil Shepherd being pregnant and unavailable for the moonlighting. Those of you who remember that with Bruce Willis and Sybil Shepherd in moonlighting episode. He came up with the idea of using claymation to play the part of Sybil for a whole episode, which was just a hoot, just a lot of fun, working with Bruce Willis and Bruce Willis's dreams of this Maddie, of the Maddie character, and ended up being just an awful lot of fun, and it was ended up being a very popular episode as well. We did several TV specials during this phase, including the Claymation Christmas celebration. It had, I think what we're going to show you here tonight is a little clip from the Dance of the Walruses and a little clip from Carol of the Bells, 2 sequences from that program. Disney was doing a movie, kind of a long-awaited sort of sequel, if you will, to The Wizard of Oz, called Return to Oz. And the director, Walter Murch, asked us to join and be the antagonists, create the antagonists of the show, which were the gnomes and the Gnome King, who were described by him as a director as living in the rock, the way fish kind of almost live in water, and emerging at surfaces, with their faces and so forth. He had the vision already of doing that in claymation. And it just took us on an amazing new direction to try to create realistic, the realism necessary of stone. And it created a lot of interesting challenges. What is stone? One of the qualities of stone is that it doesn't move, and so now that it moves, how does it, what is it going to be like? And we had to come up with all kinds of little textural ways of treating the clay material so it all looked like rock along the way, like aggregate in some ways. It was a fantastic project for which we got unbelievably good notices. Unfortunately, the film was somewhat panned as being very, very dark. It's actually better today, I think, than it was in '85 when it was released. This is also a phase that's kind of the growth of the commercial business, and the commercials certainly are a representation of the kind of more popularity that claymation was taking on, really for the first time ever. And there were lots of commercials, and we ended up sort of creating a commercial division, in fact, that really focused on that. But some of you you're certainly old enough, might remember the Domino's pizza Noid. Happened to be one of my all-time favorite characters, really inspired by Tex Avery, and very kind of trying to experiment, taking that kind of wonderful squash and stretch that Avery was famous for, and applying it and putting it into clay models. And which not an easy thing to do, difficult indeed. But I feel wonderful about how well we pulled it off in many cases, painstakingly pull it off, and created a really wonderful character who we also designed and ended up doing dozens of commercials on. And of course, there's the California Raisins that happened and hit and became, amazingly, one single, 30-second spot, which was the classic grapevine song, Heard It Through the Grapevine song. If any of you remember it, it was their characters kind of swimming along, in these little conga lines and stuff, through this commercial. That commercial, it was a one-off initially, and an national advertising budget of about $5 million. Those of you who know what budgets are like for television media buys know that probably that Coca-Cola wouldn't think twice about spending a couple $100 million on getting some of their spots out there. So it was a phenomenally tiny budget, is my point, which remarkably just caught on like absolute wildfire. And just instantly, within a week of its kind of first airing, was a kind of a buzz in popular culture. And it led to our doing quite a number of California Raisin commercials using various celebrities. In fact, we even had celebrities. We did Ray Charles and different people, and brought in different parts of it. It led to even celebrities contacting me and at times and wanting to become a raisin, including Michael Jackson, by the way. And so we did a Michael Raisin commercial at one point as well. I'm not sure. I think there may be a little clip of that in this next sequence. So there were a lot of commercial projects that we did during this phase. Dozens, hundreds, and all pretty national campaigns, major New York, Chicago, LA advertising teams with national accounts. So it was it helped to sort of also to popularize claymation. We did music videos. I think we also did for Michael Jackson. We did a sequence of his Moonwalker movie called Speed Demon. Did one for John Fogerty. I'm not sure if I have a clip of that in here or not, but that was quite fun. About a little pig, sort of a la Oliver Twist, which was supposed to be John Fogerty's manager, agent, that he was, who he felt was stealing from him. We did the Claymation Easter celebration half-hour film, which did very well in ratings as the Christmas show did. There's also in this next sequence a character montage And there's the significance of sticking that in there. It's not by any means comprehensive of all the characters we did, but what I began to realize at this point is that we were much, much less about clay, even though that's what I sort of thought we were about, being clay animators and experimenting and seeing how far clay animation could go. We were much less about that, I realized, than we were about being character creators and breathing life into characters and telling stories. And it's interesting because, it's one of those things where you kind of, self-analyze what's working about a film and so on. You realize pretty quickly that what people are ecstatic about or really enjoying in one way or another are these crazy characters. Is what they say and what they do and how they're acting and how it works relative to the story itself. And that it was clay or whether it was celluloid or whether it's computer generated made absolutely no difference. And that was a good lesson in some ways for me, who was kind of this, had been this kind of claymation disciple, missionary for a while there. And it made me really realize that that it was sort of in some ways bigger than that and more important than that, because it was really kind of all about characters. And that helped, I think, to lead us into the sort of the next phase, which, as this became more and more popular and computer tools are beginning to be accessible for artists, we could, kind of pull those into the mix as well. So this really is the represents the 80s into the probably in the 90s, earliest part of the 90s. This section. And it was an amazing sort of growth and change. We found ourselves in the enviable position as a filmmakers and as a media company, getting all kinds of, frankly, somewhat unwanted press and, articles, interest in what this was. But as I think back on it, it was an important part of sort of the growth and the change that was happening in the culture in general, and a kind of a move to, frankly, to 3D animation bit by bit. Let's go ahead and roll this second section, the zenith of claymation.
I've seen all the foreign countries I care to see, except for heaven and hell, and I have only a vague curiosity as concerns one of those. No, friends, I go to meet the comet. Every hard to starboard, spinner, spin her. We're heading for the rocks.
Maybe if you could think a little more about the situation, maybe if in fact you could think at all about anything beyond the general vicinity of your belt, you'd have an inkling that a no-account, irresponsible legend in your own mind like you has no place even dreaming about a future with the likes of me. In fact, where do you get off even asking if we... Wait a minute. You're putting words in my mouth. You're turning me into... Addison, I'm a witch.
The broom fits.
What did you say?
You heard me.
Addison, this isn't fair. You can't turn me into anything you want. You can't make me say anything you want me to say.
Sure I can. For your information, I'm in control here. This is my fantasy.
Oh, yeah?
She turned me into a horny toad.
In my fiery furnace. Next, Pumpkinhead.
Me?
You let her escape. Petrified polymorphs.
Look for green ornaments, quick. We've still got TikTok, Jack, and Belina to find.
You had to her and you let her escape.
It wasn't my fault. If you give me a real
I'll take care of you later.
We haven't finished guessing yet. You promised that if we guessed correctly...
I'm tired of games. I'm tired of all of you. Why doesn't the silver go first?
California sunshine.
California sunshine.
Heading through the grapevine, baby. And I'm just about to lose my mind.
Now, here's one we both agree on.
Wilbur?
Wilshire.
Right. This is it, where the rubber meets the road. Freeway crossing is an art form for rabbits. Now, observe. From there. Nice, huh? Okay, now it's your turn. Remember, relax. Reach out with your feelings. Be at one with the pavement and flow across. Just flow across. Go ahead. Okay, go.
I'm impressed.
Okay, so that's actually good. A comment about Mark Twain. You know, when when you make some of the deals we made, you sometimes you think it feels like having given the rights away or something in perpetuity, and that was certainly the case over 25 years ago when we completed the Adventures of Mark Twain and sold it to kind of somewhat lock, stock, and barrel, I'm sorry to say, to a distributor that we thought really understood the rather sophisticated material that it represented and the more adult sensibility that it had in it. The film got amazing reviews from, again, adults, from sneak previews, from the Hollywood Reporter, from places like magazines that raved about it, like from the New Republic, you know. Kinds of magazines, however, that children were not reading, as you might imagine. And they proceeded, unfortunately, to release it only in matinees at a time, as I said before, when the animation was pretty much for kids anyway, and that may have been their justification, that it's animation, so therefore it has to be, you know, it's a matinee kind of picture. But it completely missed its mark, and we were very disappointed about that. The distributor went bankrupt, and the property went from library to library and ended up in MGM's library, most recently Sony MGM. And but last April we actually the 25-year contract lapsed, and the copyright holders, of which I'm one, actually got the film back, which is incredible. And I'm delighted to say that we're going to re-release it this year, and as a silver anniversary or something kind of edition, both for video, but I hope limited theatrical as well. And it's playing as a showcase film at the Annecy Film Festival here coming up this June to launch in Europe. So very pleased. It's amazing. I just did a screening of it at the Los Angeles Animation Festival in LA, and just 2 months ago we did a little sneak of it and a great 35 millimeter print. It was just amazing how people thought it was looked like something that had just been created as opposed to something that in fact is quite dated. So we're very pleased that at least it may have a shot still at finding the audience that we believed in the beginning that it should have. This next phase of the growth of the company and was really moving to a much bigger company, a company that dabbled with so-called professional management, but grew and needed some of that growth for sure because we were taking on a lot of projects. We had become a really major commercial company, and we started introducing computer animation initially with Lightwave and a animation software platform that we co-authored with a software developer called Claymation that was done by Hash Enterprises. It got us into thinking not only in terms of clay, but in terms of doing 3D computer animation as well, and hybrids of it as well. So this among the new projects, in fact, one of the first projects with any scale that we did was to compete against all of the then very strong CG companies in existence. And there were some powerhouses like Industrial Light and Magic and Pixar, which had at least a commercial. This is before they were in the theatrical world, did shorts and commercials. But a lot of companies threw things at it. We actually won a bid to do the first M&Ms by virtue of a really interesting sort of strategy, which was not about technique at all, even though they wanted to dimensionalize the characters. They meant, of course, 2D, going from 2D to 3D. These are characters, M&Ms, that had been around for 40, 50 years as 2D cell-animated characters, and they wanted to make them join the 3D world. Our pitch was, don't just stop there. Make the characters themselves as dimensional as you can possibly make them. Let the audience know who each one of those characters, red, yellow, green, who they are, not just that they're 3D. And we had a very interesting and very elaborate little plan as to how to do that. And so our focus was on the character development, if you will. It won favor of the BBDO in New York, and we did the first commercials in Lightwave, and actually ended up being such a successful campaign. We really grew the personalities of each of those characters for almost 10 years. And those of you who know the commercial business, we single bid about 90% of those during that period. Just a phenomenal thing, and something that doesn't happen at all anymore, unfortunately. Single bid meaning we didn't have to competitively bid against other people. We just worked closely with them to help to continue the campaign and grow the campaign, which was just a huge amount of fun. And it's something we did with the Raisins as well, moving from commercials into entertainment projects for TV and so on. Let's see, I think I'm going to show you a little bit, some clips of red and yellow, I think some of the first spots that we did with them. I'm going to show you here, I think there's a Raid commercial that was probably the very first CG commercial, 3D CG commercial we did. We also were doing other kinds of sort of experimental short things. One character that we developed and did a couple short films with, we hope to actually turn into TV as a TV character, a series, was Mr. Resistor. So we did some shorts and commercials with him. He was basically a character about that tall, literally, made of transistors and little electronic parts. A little lightly articulated character, and pretty wild to animate because he was just minuscule. But it was great to sort of put him among. He lived in this world of throwaway, cast-off junk, if you will, from the real world, which meant that the set budgets for these rather elaborate productions was like $40, going to the thrift store and just gathering everything you could find or something. There's also in here is one of the rather famous Nissan Toys commercials. It was also known as sort of the Barbie. Ken meets Barbie kind of thing, and of course that's not what we weren't using Barbies or Kens, but it became a little bit more well known for along the way, and actually ended up stopping the campaign. Unfortunately, we would have gone on. We did some other spots that never got aired because Mattel, through a injunction and lawsuit at Nissan over the thing, and Nissan just didn't want anything to do with it. They could have. We were very well backed up. We weren't copying in any way, shape, or form, and could have won that in court. But it's not the kind of thing that a company like Nissan wants to take on. We also got into, for the first time and the first time ever, in really prime time, kind of to do a series in stop motion in prime time for primetime television. And we launched an Eddie Murphy-inspired show called The PJs. And we did about 3 seasons of the PJs, which amounted to about 50 episodes, some on Fox and then some on Warner WB network. And it was really amazing. If somebody had asked me, a few years earlier even, would it be possible to do 13 half hours or 22 half-hour episodes of a stop motion in a year's time, which is what they do. Impossible. Absolutely, unequivocally impossible. But I have to say, one of the things that the team we built was really good at dynamite, at taking on amazing challenges and things that had never been done before and making them happen. And a big part of it ended up being to the credit of a lot of the amazing kind of production management, just the organizational aspects of it, but also finding a terrific group of team of people. And by that time we had nurtured a number of directors that could take on different episodes with a different separate team of stop motion animators and a really great uber team of creative puppet makers and lighting, camera departments and so forth. So it was quite an amazing operation. And the company, I think, grew ultimately at our peak during the TV shows. I think we ballooned up to about 450 people or something like that. It was really a major enterprise in about 3 or 4 different buildings in Northwest Portland. We also did a show called Gary and Mike. Anybody see Gary and Mike? Anybody? Which is sad. It's sort of, Sean's seen it. In fact, you didn't shoot on any of those, did you? Did you shoot at some Gary and Mike episodes? Yeah, right. Yeah, directed one. Cool. And so I don't know. We did, I think, 13 episodes, if I remember correctly, of Gary and Mike as well. So one year, we did our usual array of commercials, and I think if I remember correctly, that was like about 70, 30-second, largely, few 60s second, few 15s, about 70 commercials in that year. We did, I think, 22 episodes of the PJs and 8, anyway, episodes of Gary and Mike, which all, comes to, something like, somebody do the math quick, it's like, 25 hours or some of stop motion animation. Unbelievable. I mean, it was, unbelievable to me that we were able to do that. Obviously, in order to do that, we cut a lot of corners compared to what we had been doing before with this very meticulous lip sync and a variety of things. But I really am pleased that given the limitations, given the budget limitations and so on, that our teams really rose to the occasion. I think it remains, the PJs remains some of the best, in my opinion, stop motion animation ever to be created for television, directly for television. It will remain there probably for a long time, I would suspect, in that category. There also, I think, in this series that I'm going to show you, there also were some failed pilots that we did, and certainly a part of television series making was also the ones that got away, the failed ones that didn't work. I think there's one that's Slacker Cats was the title of this show, and it had a cool style to it. It was kind of nice, and so I'm going to show you a little piece of that. There was an enormous amount of growth in this phase. Certainly on the backbone, on the strength of the kind of quality that we had already sort of established, and on the strength of variety. When we first started out, I basically did all the directing of all projects, and we'd do them more or less one at a time. And then we started transitioning after Mark Twain into being, having senior animators who had become animation directors for a particular project and commercials and so forth. And little by little, we, in the 90s, toward the end of the 90s, we had a terrific staff of about 12 really strong commercial directors and episode, and even more than that, of episode directors for TV shows. So it gave us tremendous flexibility to do a variety of kinds of things. The really significant thing, though, was that this is sort of, kind of in some ways, the flowering of claymation, the flowering of a real transition in 3D. People from even the previous phase were readily accepting the 3D animation, claymation, that they were seeing, I think, as a medium that wasn't necessarily just for kids. Maybe it wasn't at all for kids, in fact. And you found self-respecting adults opening their eyes almost for the first time to animation. In addition to those greats, as I say, that go way, way back, because there were always us fans who loved, some of the classic, cell animation, and still do. But in terms of just the general public, it was interesting there because all of this activity in commercials, in TV, in theaters as special effects, a range of kind of things really sort of, I think, was creating not only an appetite, not only an acceptance, I guess, but an appetite for 3D animation. And it was at this time that the 3D computer technologies really started to expand, started to get to a place where, frankly, right-brained people, artists, could access them and could use them effectively. The computer animation had been around for 20 years, but it had been primarily the tool of Caltech, MIT nerds trying to figure out, trying to become filmmakers. And it wasn't until artists really grabbed a hold of those tools that it started to really blossom in the kind of fertile ground of popularity-wise, of some of the 3D work that had been out there by ourselves and other people like Aardman, as you know, Wallace and Gromit, and some of those kinds of characters that also, sort of paved that way. So let me show you this this third phase here, and we will go from there.
You'll dance over our colorful
Would you mind getting your shell off of my face?
Oops, sorry. Oh, I miss the old M&M days. A dip in the chocolate pool.
Quick candy shower.
Say, the milk chocolate melts in your mouth.
Not in your hand. Call it a day.
Cognito, done.
Wake up, you're famous. M&Ms. Try not to trip this time.
No problem. I'll be... Ooh.
FM 102. Well, it's a marvelous night for a month.
You won't believe it. And I'm alive.
What are you doing?
What?
You're eating M&Ms.
Yeah, so are you.
Well, I'm not an M&M. You don't eat your own kind. It's unnatural.
Here, give me that.
Ooh, I like crispy. Give me the bags. Oh, that's just disturbing.
Well, I'm out of here, baby. They called the Orkin guy today.
We're dead.
These Orkin guys kill me. What's with this Orkin injection system?
It means sayonara, Jack.
Well, actually, it's a technological marvel.
What?
See, the Orkin injection system delivers a precise measured treatment into cracks and crevices.
Where we live?
Yeah, and only Orkin has it.
We're dead.
It's a bad day to be a bug.
Hello, Project! I am the Reverend Thurgood Stubbs, God's holy daredevil. That's right, I said God's holy daredevil, because I dare the devil to stop me from doing God's holy work.
First of all, what the hell are you doing with a pet rat? And don't you know these things spread disease? Look what it did to your dog.
He ain't a dog, he's a man.
Oh, dear God, no!
Jimmy likes his coffee like he likes his women.
Yeah, well, anybody else want a big-ass coffee?
Miss Avery, please, don't
You ain't got nothing to say.
Thurgood only has one testicle.
Yeah! Where's that uncivilized bum?
There he is, in the breakfast nook. Get it, come on, let's
Speaking of romance, pull my fingers.
What?
Let's diddy get diddy caca boo 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 diddy the boo boo. Plus it'll give me a chance to show off my really big vocabulary, and it's really big, big and good. It's a big, good, really big, good vocabulary. Good, blah blah blah.
Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother. Right about now, the Funk Soul Brother. Check it out now, the Funk Soul Brother.
Boy, am I a beast. Good night, Miriam. Oh, boy, do I feel refreshed. Nothing like a good night's sleep. Grab and shine, Rip Van Winkle. Time to make breakfast.
Thurgood, we just got in bed. Those are the movie lights.
What? Hey, this has been going on for 3 days. I got half a mind to go out there right now and...
Wing me!
Coming right up. Dip?
You know it, Daddy. I can't wait to see the look on Ben's face. He's gonna freak!
When was the last time you saw him?
I'll kill you! No, I'll kill you! Bring it on! Christmas, 2 years ago.
Party in my pants, girls take a chance. Getting kinda rowdy, don't you wanna say howdy to the party in my pants? Oh yeah! Look at me!
Gary, I've done some pretty stupid things in my life.
But if we don't call the fire department, we'll be the heroes.
Let's blaze our own trail. The Gary and Mike trail. But what you've done takes the freaking cake.
No way, Mike, you're getting a job.
Oh, I've got a job. Saving you from Chewbacca.
I want to get a picture. Okay, smile.
Oh my God! You're doing the right... Oh, now come on!
Drifting from town to town without ever really accomplishing anything.
Exactly, my friend. We're young stallions. Oh, heaven. I've got to pee again.
I'll take the prairie, it's safer. Actually, I think I'll stay.
Hello there, little pussycat.
Ow! Damn!
What?
Something just stung the inside of my mouth.
Man, you okay?
Yeah, I'll be fine.
You just dropped like 4 hits of acid, man.
Pardon me?
Oh my God!
You're 8 years old now. Be a man.
I'm too scared.
Then we'll jump together.
Mike!
I'm scared too.
Hey, your prayers, Mike Bunner!
Shut it down! Shut it down now!
Oh yeah! Thank you! Good night!
All right, so where are we headed?
I don't care, Mike. As long as we don't go home.
The world's most exciting game is now a major motion picture event. Stallone. Schwarzenegger in the most spellbinding contest of all time.
B-A-K. Back. Hey, what kind of word is that? Back. As in, I'll be back.
The dizzying highs of a double-letter score. The nauseating lows of getting stuck with a cube. The most nail-biting game of all time. Now, the film that spells excitement. Scrabble, the movie.
Triple fed score, baby. Game over.
That's it. Shows like Gary and Mike, are really pretty amazingly edgy kind of shows, very adult, as adult as anything probably I've been involved with. Truth of the matter is, though, I loved Gary and Mike. I think I related to it the most, despite the mayhem of these two idiots traveling across the country, with this just total wake of destruction, behind them, kind of oblivious to the mess that they created and so on as they go. Just the whole experience of traveling the country in their car, on this great adventure, this great kind of crazy turn of the new millennium sort of adventure it was pretty fun. I wish the show could have gone on and on, because it would have been a pretty fun and somewhat wild and edgy kind of thing for television for prime time. At this point, I mean, when toward the end of the 90s and early 2001, 2, 3 or so, the company was really so big. I was really trying to find some way, frankly, to get back to that first phase, the experimentation and so on, and because I did so much sort of creative work then, so much development, so much character design and story design, story creation, and so on. And one of the solutions I thought would be a good one, I mean, I had really become, as the head of this company, which was now Will Vinton Studios in Portland, I'd become, really mostly a businessman and an ex-artist. And so we did hire some professional management, and we tried that, and we brought in some investment money that we really didn't need. Unfortunately, that actually put us on a path of spending money that probably wasn't so good in retrospect. It wasn't good in retrospect, period. And so that actually, while I was hoping that was going to be a way for me, by hiring sort of management to get back into doing much more directing and creating of new projects and so on, I found it kind of continually pulling me back into it and worrying, even more over what was going to become of it. And in the end, I eventually left in 2003. Left the company in part because one of the primary investor had sort of we had had a couple of months of quarters of downturn, and the investor had the ability to sort of take control of the board. I resigned from the board myself, which was kind of ridiculous, but I was ready to move on, I think. And in any event, sold the company. Not by any means for what it was worth or anything, but and have left it altogether. Since then, what I've really been doing, and the silver lining of all of that, which sounds like it could be bleak and dismal, and in ways was that I'm really went back to doing kind of my own thing much more, and I was out from under an enormous responsibility and frankly headache of huge monstrous overheads and so on, and just put out effectively my own shingle and got back into doing a lot of writing. Joined the Writers Guild of America and did some spec screenplays for a couple of companies in LA. Not spec, but on commissioned screenplays. And since then I've actually developed a slew of projects, anticipating somewhat that the animation feature market was going to do two things. One, grow immensely, which it absolutely has, and the other is to diversify significantly, which it absolutely hasn't. And meaning that I anticipated the growth of the animated feature world almost as much as it has been, which has been phenomenal growth, especially internationally. What I what I was also counting on or thinking when I was doing development of many comedic projects with various writers, producers on each project, different teams and graphic people and so forth, who I worked with in partnership to develop a range of these projects. I anticipated, that it would become animation industry would become much more like the live action world, which is, as you know, is not dominated by one single genre by any means, but is mixed with all kinds of low and high budget kinds of projects, niche market projects for, there's just vampires and horror films and, all different kinds of sort of niches all over the place that we fully expect in the world of live action films. And I expected, and frankly still expect, to see a transition to where animation is just a medium after all. It's not some magic formula that is only about, big monster picture, broad family audiences, comedies. It's a medium that can be used in a variety of ways, and I'm delighted to see there are certainly practitioners here and there. If any of those of you have seen The Illusionist, while that particular story didn't appeal to me personally, I'm delighted to see the production, delighted to see that kind of, again, niche market stuff in animation sort of being at least tried. I personally think the stories need to be so good; they almost need to be better when the budgets are small and when it's more of a niche. So when I say niche market, I mean I've developed some projects, feature projects at this point, all ready to go into production with complete screenplays and so on. One is, for example, an R-rated Christmas show. Well, that's a niche. That's not what you expect. I happen to think it could be enormously commercial, actually, because it could be produced so inexpensively, and because it plays off of, it's in a sense you could say it's sort of, it's a little bit of Bad Santa mixed with Team America or something, stop motion, and so I'm waiting around for that diversification to happen. A couple of years ago, about a year ago, I decided to take the bull by the horns and go back into production a little bit myself. So I'm, in fact, over the last 9 months or so, I've been exploring, putting together sort of the business plan, the financing, the distribution, meeting with international companies to do certain pieces of computer animation and so on for some parts of it. An idea of producing under our new banner, Free Will. It's actually Free Will Distribution and Vinton Entertainment, which is the parent company. And we intend to go out to the financial markets here in the next 30 days. Actually, we're finally ready to go out to the marketplace. So we'll see. We're going to try and raise quite a bit of capital to do a first, and moving on to some of these other projects that are lower budget by far than what the major studios, Hollywood studios, are doing. I hope to be so busy, so incredibly busy, that this may be the last speaking engagement I'll ever do for, ever. I don't know. We'll see. But I mean, I've enjoyed actually doing some teaching up in Portland area, and also in doing some workshops at various campuses around the country over the last few years also. And that's been a really enjoyable piece of kind of, I guess in some ways, kind of giving back or something. And it's been fun to sort of engage and find, some really dedicated students, new people on the way up, and as it has been here. I'm quite certain if we do move forward with these projects, I will not be teaching anymore for a while. That's kind of the nature of the beast, unfortunately, or not. But I could not be more excited about where 3D animation is continuing to grow and go, and I'm just delighted that to myself have been a part of that, even an infinitesimal part of that growth, and our teams, the teams that I've worked with. It's also wonderful actually to see. People that came in to us sometimes as apprentices or as very junior animators make their way up the ranks, become directors. Sean's an example of somebody who left the company as a proper director, really a good director, capable of doing all kinds of great things. And it's fun to see where that leads. Some of those people have gone on to do some wonderful projects and become creators. Craig Bartlett cut his teeth with us, who was the creator of Hey Arnold and the Dinosaur Train and a bunch of things for Nickelodeon, and Tom Gasick. But some of the core group that we've had there at the studio, I have to, in fact, particularly acknowledge the artist, unbelievable master animator, Barry Bruce, who worked with me for basically for the entire run. He went through the entire thing, and Barry came from architecture. I came from, as you know, as a graduate from architecture. Barry learned clay. He was an excellent sculptor and a great designer, and really learned more than that, the great craft of animating, and became a great mentor for many of the people in our company as well. So it was a terrific, a terrific group of people that with a legacy that just keeps on growing, and which is marvelous, wonderful to sort of see. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. And if you have any questions, I'd love to just talk with you guys. If you have any questions or thoughts and so forth.